Next, we have Game Z Jake's request. He asks that I continue with his earlier fanfic, and since I brought up that possibility, I'm happy to oblige. Now before anything, I want to address that since the last time I covered this, there were attempts to revise some of the earlier chapters I covered. Mostly with the duels, but still worth bringing up. Like, the second chapter changes what duel discs Weevil took, and it gives an incentive for Yuzu to join in and help Yuichi get them back. Weevil's ace monster is even changed into a ritual monster to better serve the theme of this dimension. In terms of Reggie's new Lancer team, Yuya and Yuzu's counterparts are now gone and replaced with more of their friends, thus allowing for the added explanation to Yuichi about Zark and the dimensional counterpart scenario. The duel with the Grandmaster is expanded to include Bastion and Moonshadow, plus he doesn't just give up like a child when Yuichi turns things around. Finally, the last big change involves the chapters with Joey, as now Yuzu joins in to help Bastion duel him. In general, these are helpful changes that make it more consistent to the anime and what's happened and how characters would act. There's still some story aspects that need refinement, but it's a good start to say the least. Again, I'm not what you would call a fanfic critic, and I wouldn't make myself the go-to guy for absolute advice when it comes to writing. It's always a learning experience, which even I'm going through as well. Whatever can help, I try offering it. With that said, as per request, I'm going to try and get through the end of this major arc, which would be chapter 17. And now that these chapters are numbered, I now know when that will happen. Chapter 9 begins with Yuichi asking Bastion about Erasure, the mystery duelist he ran into when they first met. He says that they're a monster of death, with the power to erase anything, primarily duel monsters. They even took someone important to Bastion, who he wants revenge for. Yuichi later has a dream about a girl, who I'm guessing might be Yuzu's ritual counterpart if we're going by Arc 5 logic, and how Erasure did something to them before. Of course, once he wakes up, Erasure actually appears and challenges him to a duel. It's like, you called me and so I appeared. They seem to run a Melody's End deck, which seems to be zombie-based, though for most of the duel, only one gets used, which is kind of the point because this is meant to be a dangerous foe from his forgotten past. So if he can't get past even this one powerful monster, how will he continue? As the others wonder where Yuichi is, we off-screen Erasure damaging Yuichi with a shield and sword combo, and while Yuichi is eventually able to do some damage to them, Erasure ends up summoning their ace monster, Erasure Reaper. Based on Bastion's reaction, as he and the others show up, this monster is incredibly dangerous as not only does it seem to negate battle damage, but any monster it attacks is just erased. Not like banished, since it doesn't go to the graveyard. I mean freaking erased. I'm glad you remember, but it won't help you now. Prepare to be erased. No, Doodlebob, don't erase me! But before he can be erased, Scarmaker manifests. The rough sketch makes it seem like a mixture of Dark Rebellion and Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, with tattered wings. Either way, it interrupts the duel as she tells Erasure to leave until Yuichi is back to full power. Either way, Yuichi is down a monster, but Scarmaker is officially his partner now. Chapter 10 has everyone recuperating until Scarmaker senses the arrival of her sister, which is currently in the possession of Hugo? I thought you were gone. Either we're at a point where the story hasn't been revised like the earlier chapters, or maybe this has something to do with Takuma and his powers. Otherwise, I can see Hugo remembering things that happened since technically he and the other counterparts merged with Yuya. He's still a goofball, though some weird things happened during his talk with Yuichi and Scarmaker, since it seems Clearwing Synchro Dragon can possess her owner to speak, instead of the chibi form they had going on. I don't think that's Hugo anymore. Then who? Relax, it's just my sister throwing a temper tantrum. Well, this is certainly escalating quickly, because yeah, next thing we know, she challenges the two to a duel. Deckmaster rules too, since obviously there's no way to speed duel, and technically Clearwing is the one dueling through Hugo. Clearwing takes advantage of Hugo's speedroids, including two pendulum monsters from the manga. though doesn't quite know what it's doing since she gets upset when Yuichi's monster locks up her monster zones. Of course, what's shocking is that Clearwing is doing this to prove her loyalty to Zark. Either she doesn't know he's gone and or merged with Leira Akaba, or somehow he got out of Leira and decided to go back to being homicidal despite enjoying the final duel of the anime. Yeah, reminder for some of you, Leira absorbed Zark after they defeated him and sealed his powers. This caused them to turn into a baby, and to truly defeat Zark's evilness, they had to make them smile. Beats the manga's ending where it turns out Yuzu was actually Yuya's mother, and because Yuya came from the future, when he went back to his own time, Yuzu met young Yusho, his father, later married him, and gave birth to the Yu-Bros.
Incest marriage done!
Now that I got that messed up image out of the way, let's continue. Clearwing performs a synchro summon, which is explained to Bastion since he doesn't know, and it's for Kite Drake, who's able to nuke the field except itself. And since this is Deckmaster rules, she summons herself and is preparing to defeat Yuichi. Yuzu panics, thinking she'll lose another friend like with Yuya, and her cries seem to reach Hugo since the attack is stopped. Well, more so that Yuichi has a card to stop the attack, but either way, she mentions how in a duel like this, the loser is absorbed into the winner. This is in reference to how, whenever Yuya or his counterparts duel each other, they would get absorbed into the dominant form. That, and because they were all tied to Zark, they could end up bringing him back. But anyway, since Yuichi had a card that could end the battle phase, he has his awakening again and begins to make a comeback. Seems he's adopted Yuma's shining draw power, which, fair enough, gotta have some anime flair in there. But anyway, he summons Scarmaker, who seems to have the power to equip monsters to it like spell cards, while being immune to destruction while having one. And while they could have just gone for Clearwing for the win, they have to demonstrate how destroying level 5 or higher monsters lets Scarmaker attack again. With the duel over, Yuichi returns to normal and doesn't end up absorbing Hugo and Clearwing. Yuzu gets mad at them for scaring the crap out of her with that duel. Hugo repairs her duel disc, and she finally tells everyone what happened prior to appearing in this dimension. And yeah, it seems like part of the story hasn't been revised since we're once again bringing back Yuzu's counterparts into the story. This story especially worries the 7th King, who seems to know how this happened. In the meantime, we move over to a city drenched in a storm, where Takuma is talking with someone named Zera, who might be his mother from before. They're after something, whatever these fragments are, and we see a bit of what Zera looks like as we enter Chapter 12, The Tragedy of Sevens. President Goha finally got off his ass and did something instead of ordering people around. Well, then again, he was controlled by a drone before he was deposed. Anyway, Hugo notices the King's duel disc being the one from Sevens and sees him as a rush soldier that's looking for Yuga, only for him to reveal that he is Yuga. He runs off due to what is learned and all, and it makes the others suspicious of his actions. Yuichi believes he can't be bad, especially since he ran off crying just now, and they agree to go find him. Rush duels. I installed them. I allowed them. I caused this. Okay, partial reminder, Sevens and Go Rush were made to springboard the Rush duel system Konami created to try and reinvent the card game a bit, by allowing duelists to summon multiple times during their turn and always have a full hand during the start of the turn. In Sevens, Yuga created Rush duels because he wanted to break away from the kind of duels his world had and create something entertaining for the world to enjoy. To be honest, I haven't been able to fully watch either that or Go Rush, but it seems Yuga's story is pretty complicated since he ends up going back in time to when Go Rush happens so that he can create Rush duels there. And all the while, he exists as a mysterious duelist that characters refer to as that guy. I guess the 7th King persona is meant to reference that. Either way, without fully knowing Yuga's character, I can't say if this is breaking character given the kind of villains he's faced in his show. Takuma and Zera have to be pretty awful if they took advantage of his creation to this effect. Speaking of, upon catching up to Yuga, he seems to refer to them as the Millennium Order, while also explaining rush duels and how he invented them. Yuichi will only agree to help Yuga if he beats him in one of his rush duels, which is probably meant to encourage him to do his best in duel, like he used to. As they duel, Yuga thinks back to when he first did rush duels and had his friends by his side, and then I guess the ending of Sevens happened where he seemed to go into space to save the duel program or something. I'm just going off the fan wiki at this point. Either way, he disappeared for 2 years, but I guess instead of coming back to a happy future, it's one where Zera and the Millennium Order took over. At any rate, Yuga brings out his ace monster, Seven's Road Magician, who has the power to grow stronger for every different attribute in the graveyard and then some, further enforced with an equipped spell of a similar effect, which is enough to take down Yuichi. They buddy up and things are fine, except the mystery woman from the bazaar is watching them and notes them as 2 of 9. Of what, though? We'll see. The group reunites and decides to head to Domino City, though Hugo is still a bit untrusting of Yuga at the moment. For now, they get some rest, and Yuzu still wonders how Yuichi is similar to Yuya despite the memories he has. Otherwise, we see Weevil spouting talk of revenge for before. When he bumps into Joey and his group, he watches from behind trees as he sees them talking with Takuma about getting new duel tech in exchange for capturing Yuichi and Yuzu. In Weevil's excitement, he gets found out, but Takuma allows him to stay since he could be useful. Our heroes wake up, Yuzu asks about how Yugo's duel runner got fixed, possibly by Rin, before being surrounded by the bad guys. Hugo, either from the earlier experience with Takuma and or from the earlier version of the story, remembers Takuma for whatever he did, and Takuma seems to refer to his dragon as a fragment. I wonder if, instead of forming Supreme King Zark, the original and new Dimension Dragons will become something else if the baddies get them? Both sides get their share of dialogue in before being forced into a team battle royale, with it being 5 against 6. If the heroes lose, they get taken. They all get teleported into some kind of large castle, and it seems this is more akin to the Miami Championship from the anime, where in one round, everyone goes around the city dueling each other, including the 2,000 life point penalty for joining in an active duel. Though here they carry over what life points they have, hence why they start with 6,000. Action cards are in place too, so there's that. Anyway, Yuzu runs into Takuma, who seems to refer to her original combined self, Rei. He seems to have a thing for her, though she rejects him. Your words hurt, you know. I don't get what you see in that monster.
Wait a minute!
Yuya's my friend. Someone like you who can't see past a face wouldn't understand that, and that's why you're able to tell him apart from his clones. Wait, Takuma summons Weevil to have him duel her instead. Weevil does the classic destroy Pinch Hopper, summon a strong insect strategy with Metamorphosed Insect Queen, while Yuzu brings out Bloom Diva to take it out easily. Elsewhere, Bastion starts dueling Mark, one of Joey's friends. He's initially confused by how action duels work, though he might get the hang of it later. Otherwise, Takuma is already dueling Yuga and is winning at the moment. Yuga is doing what he can to win while wondering, what is your problem with me? My problem isn't with you. It's that blue-haired kid you hang with, who always breaks electronics for some reason. In the dungeon, Yuichi asks Scarmaker if she can tell him more of his past, but she refuses. He runs into Joey's friend Ricky, who uses a Blackluster Soldier / Gaia the Dragon Knight deck, with whatever variants it has. However, this is the duel where Yuichi properly ritual summons Scarmaker, and when colored, it looks pretty nice, in line with how the Dimension Dragons would look with what they have in similarity. The duel gets intense, but ultimately Yuichi wins through an action card that doubles battle damage. Elsewhere, Hugo finds another one of Joey's friends, locked in a cell, because this is clearly a trap that Hugo falls for, and now he's separated from his duel runner. Well, he was always the dumbest of the U-bros. Meanwhile, Bastion is losing to Mark, who has Jinzo Layered, an Xyz monster. Granted, they might have told Bastion about the Xyz dimension in greater detail, but this is literally the first time Xyz summoning has ever happened in this story. And I have to assume Takuma gave him this card, given what they know. Either way, Bastion figured out that Mark had this area rigged with action cards he knew would be useful. But that doesn't matter because, as this is Jinzo layered and not Jinzo proper, Bastion can use trap cards like normal, including Magic Cylinder and an action trap that doubles any damage done. He wins, and then as a way to get his life points up, he uses some remaining action cards that get him up to 4,000. Otherwise, we see Weevil use Ritual Parasite, which is based on Fusion Parasite, given the art used here. And given that Weevil is aware of what happened with her in the anime and is screwing around with her, why not just use Fusion Parasite in that case? Takuma had to have given him this card, so it's okay if Weevil used anything that wasn't native to this dimension now. After removing Bloom Diva, he uses his Parasite to attack on the grounds that she'll be too scared to do anything given the trauma involved with the Doctor. However, she ends up drawing Smile World, the card most associated with Yuya, as he gave her that card as a way to never lose her again. So, just in case I'm not with you, you can have this, to remember to smile even when everything seems dark. This gets her to imitate Yuya and his little ladies and gentlemen act as she brings out a powerful monster that ends up defeating Weevil. Elsewhere, Yuichi and Bastion group up and run into Joey, who along with John are about to duel when suddenly Takuma performs a maximum summon during his duel with Yuga. Everyone is forced to run, and they see some kind of large dragon. In rush duels, maximum summon involves special monsters, called maximum monsters, that are comprised of 3 parts, that get special summoned together to give the main monster a maximum mode that boosts their attack. Apparently what they're doing is beyond the deal they made with Joey, and soon it's made apparent that Takuma plans to target Domino City, where Serenity seems to be. Takuma defeats Yuga with one final attack, and as he glitches out of existence, Yuga thanks Yuichi for teaching him to smile again, in what seems to be a repeat of Yusho's defeat to Yuri, complete with similar lines. Yuichi ends up going berserk as he starts dueling Takuma. Hugo, having escaped and got his duel runner back, looks for John, who has apparently run into someone and is dueling them. Hugo takes a penalty and finds John defeated by someone with 5 different dragons with blue eyes. Uh-oh. Yuichi? No, you're not him. Are you with Joey's poachers then? Oh snap, we about to get Kaiba up in this bitch? And being aware of Hugo being the synchro counterpart, he one-shots him with an action card and his blue eyes. Down to 2 chapters in this arc. Let's see how this all ends. Takuma challenges Yuichi, Joey, and Bastion to a duel, and we see that Takuma has pendulum monsters as well. Takuma goes over how he thinks the pendulum dimension shouldn't exist, but rather than merge all the dimensions into one, they should be destroyed because of what duelists are capable of becoming. With various images of maximum monsters, as they're from the Rush dimension and all, it seems like Takuma is afraid things will turn out like in 5Ds, where evolution will cause humanity's downfall with how much they rely on duel monsters or something. After all, maximum monsters are super huge and can cause all sorts of havoc if they do actual damage, so it's more about preventing war? It's not like he should get to decide things when all he's done is harm people through destruction, though it seems like he wants to prevent Zark from coming back. Also, the ritual dimension is the most dangerous because of people's connections to dual spirits, and how Scarmaker is considered one of Zark's somehow. Yeah, there's a lot to take in that doesn't quite make sense. But now we get to see when Yuzu first met Takuma, before he did his little separation act from before. While he seemed to treat Yuzu kindly, he had resentment toward Yuya despite never meeting him. It's more of a carryover from the original dimension, since I guess he had a thing for Rei back then, and is trying to get her to come back now. Of course, Shun shows up to protect her. After all, Yuzu has his sister's soul in her now. Back to the duel. Takuma pendulum summons the base form for his earlier monster, Pendulum Paladin Sword Deity Dragon, which only has 0 attack at the moment due to not being maximum summoned. Of course, using another monster's effect, he returns it to his hand so he can add the remaining pieces and actually perform the maximum summon. So good on him for thinking of that. This time it has 4,500 attack points. It deals a devastating blow to Yuichi while also doing more with its effect. He's just a kid! Yeah, you wanted him dead earlier. Plus, you were willing to attack Yuzu with your monster. Yuzu joins in and tries to do something, but Takuma counters her attack and knocks her down a peg. Meanwhile, Kaiba speaks to one of his employees about questioning Hugo, and deciding he wants to watch this duel up close. Are you crazy, Mr. Kaiba? We have no idea what those cards can do when... Click. Okay, Yuichi. You can't hide from me forever. Yeah, I'll give you an A for effort on this design. Anyway, last chapter for this arc. Yuzu tries to stop Takuma from attacking, but her traps don't work on his monster. So Joey uses a card to take the hit and falls. Bastion brings out Frost Storm Dragon and actually manages to damage Takuma, only for him to use a variant of Mirror Force that's very specific, needing to return a 3500 attack or more monster to benefit from destroying monsters and inflicting damage. Then of course he and Yuzu lose, leaving Yuichi left. How could you? It's only fair. If I lost everything, you should as well. Someone is very bitter at people who did nothing. Then Kaiba shows up, and it seems for the first time, Takuma is scared of his presence. I mean, I know Kaiba is the ultimate badass who found a way to travel to the afterlife just to duel his forever rival, but I don't think he would be that powerful to stop you right now. He ritual summons Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon before bringing out a new monster, Blue Eyes Infinite Dragon, who, because of how it was summoned, reduces all monsters with lower attack to 0, which means he can attack and win, because Takuma didn't have anything else. Then, because of whatever history they have, Kaiba decides he'll take out Yuichi too, since he needs to take him in for questioning, thus ending the first arc. So, most of the issues I had the first time around can apply here, especially during the last few chapters, because holy cow, that was nuts! I don't know what kind of revisions will be made to account for Hugo, but the later duels get pretty insane with the custom cards, especially for a big bad making use of a particular summon type outside its native duel type, which I do think is implemented alright, though things were starting to get a bit rushed in the story department. Some of the stuff with Yuzu was at least good, particularly the reminder that she and Yuya make a good pair given the anime, and that she is a capable duelist. Clearwing having a tiff with Scarmaker was pretty funny, and I do find it funny that one of the big bads for this series, who single-handedly took out multiple people at once, gets jobbed by someone out of the blue eyes, after going through the trouble of bringing out a city-destroying monster. I just hope it doesn't become a thing where Kaiba is the ultimate character who can't lose due to his status as a main character from his anime. Again, I do appreciate some ideas here and there, but the execution is still all over the place. Very janky, but not without promise. If you can find ways to improve, I'm all for that. That's all I have to say for now. Next time, we cover another old anime movie. I'll see you then.